The Gliesa system was quiet, almost eerily so. Its twin suns shone faintly across the barren landscapes of the planet Elira, casting long shadows over the fractured cities below. Once a thriving civilization, Elira had grown into a world of towering crystal spires, gardens, and bustling trade centers. But now the cities were silent, their once bright lights dimmed, replaced by smoke and flames. The Illyrians, a peaceful and gentle species, had never known war on such a scale. Their tall, slender bodies shimmered with soft, iridescent colors, reflecting the light of their twin suns. Their eyes, large and expressive, had always been full of curiosity and wonder, but today those eyes were wide with fear. From the orbit above, the Illyrians watched their world burn. The invaders, known only as the Vorax, were ruthless. Sleek, black ships cut through Elira's atmosphere, dropping weapons that erupted with deadly precision. The Illyrians' own defense systems, though advanced for their peaceful technology, had no chance against the Vorax's overwhelming firepower. Entire cities had been reduced to ruins within hours. In the midst of chaos, a small group of Illyrian leaders gathered in the central command tower of Elira's capital, their voices trembling but firm. Among them was Lyrael, the chief strategist of the Illyrian Council. Her voice, calm yet urgent, rose above the panic around her. "We cannot fight them," she said, her fingers trembling as she traced the glowing maps of the cities. "Our weapons cannot reach their ships. Our forces are scattered. We will be wiped out if we continue to resist alone." Another leader, a wise elder named Kael, nodded gravely. "We have no choice. We must send the distress signal. There is one hope. Someone stronger, someone who can help us." Lyrael hesitated. Sending a distress signal across the galaxy was a risk. They had no guarantee anyone would respond, but remaining silent meant certain death. With a deep breath, she activated the transmission system. The signal pulsed outward, a desperate plea written in the universal language of the stars. "To any capable force, we are under attack. Elira is being destroyed. We are peaceful, but we cannot survive this alone. Help us." The signal carried through the void of space, traveling light years toward the human colonies at the edge of known space. On Earth, in the command center of the Deathworlder fleet, the transmission arrived as a flicker on the main screen. Officers froze, staring at the message in disbelief. Captain Aaron, a seasoned human commander, stepped forward. His face was weathered but strong, lined with the experience of countless missions. He studied the message carefully. "Elira, I've never heard of them," he said, his voice calm but firm. "And yet, they are asking for help. This could be dangerous, but we can't ignore a call like this." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Mara, frowned. "Captain, the Vorax are near. They are reported to be merciless and highly advanced." "This could be a trap," Aaron shook his head. "We are Deathworlders. We survive where others cannot. This is what we do. Prepare the fleet. We are going to Elira." Within hours, the Deathworlder fleet was ready. Massive starships, armored and bristling with weapons, left Earth's orbit and moved toward the Gliesa system. The fleet had earned a fearsome reputation throughout the galaxy. Known for their ability to endure extreme environments, their cunning strategies, and their unmatched resilience, humans had become a force both feared and respected. As the fleet jumped into hyperspace, Aaron gathered his crew. "We don't know what we will find," he began, his voice steady. "But we do know this. Any civilization calling for help in the face of destruction deserves our aid. We will not fail them." Meanwhile, on Elira, the situation grew more desperate. The Vorax ships had begun a systematic attack on the remaining cities. Their weapons were precise and devastating, and their troops moved with a terrifying efficiency. Entire neighborhoods vanished in a matter of minutes. Families ran through the streets carrying what little they could save, while the Illyrian defense drones fired tirelessly at the invaders. Yet for every drone destroyed, the Vorax sent 2 more. In a hidden bunker beneath the capital, Lyrael watched through a holographic screen as her people struggled to survive. Tears welled in her eyes, but she did not give in to despair. She thought of the humans, of the unknown allies who might be coming. Somewhere out in the stars they were on their way, and she clung to that hope with all her heart. Days passed in the blink of an eye. The Vorax were thorough, leaving no area untouched. Entire forests were scorched, rivers poisoned, and buildings reduced to rubble. The Illyrians had never known such terror. Children huddled with their parents in underground shelters, whispering stories of the sky warriors who might save them. Then a glimmer of hope appeared. On the horizon, the first human ships dropped out of hyperspace, their massive forms cutting through Elira's clouds. The fleet's presence was unlike anything the Illyrians had ever seen. Sleek silver ships with reinforced hulls and advanced weapon systems formed a line in orbit, ready to engage the enemy. Lyrael's eyes widened. "They've come," she whispered. The council members around her gasped in awe and relief. Captain Aaron's voice echoed across the human fleet. "This is Captain Aaron of the Deathworlder fleet. Illyrians, we are here to help. Hold your ground and stay safe. We will handle the Vorax." From that moment, the battle for Elira entered a new stage. The Vorax, initially confident in their dominance, now faced a force unlike any they had encountered. Humans did not fight like other species. They were relentless, inventive, and unyielding. They would use the terrain, the asteroids, the storms, anything to their advantage. In the skies above Elira, the first clash occurred. Vorax fighters darted through the clouds, their weapons blazing. Human ships responded with coordinated maneuvers, dodging attacks and returning fire with deadly precision. Meteors were drawn into the fray as humans altered their orbits, creating hazards that the Vorax had not anticipated. On the ground, Illyrian drones worked alongside humans, sharing intelligence and helping civilians escape. Families who had once thought they would perish now found refuge, their hope renewed by the courage of these new allies. In the command tower, Lyrael felt a strange sense of awe. Humans were unlike any being she had ever seen. They did not fear danger. They faced it head-on. Their determination radiated across the battlefield, inspiring Illyrians to fight where they could, defend where they must, and survive where survival seemed impossible. As night fell across Elira, the fires of the destroyed cities still burned, but a sense of possibility had returned. The Vorax were formidable, but the Deathworlders were here, and with them came a glimmer of hope that Elira could endure. Captain Aaron stood on the bridge of his flagship, gazing down at the planet below. He knew the battle had only begun, and the challenges ahead would test every skill, every strategy, and every ounce of courage his crew possessed. But he also knew this: humanity had faced impossible odds before, and they had always prevailed. "Prepare for the next wave," he ordered. "The Illyrians are counting on us, and we do not fail." Below him on Elira, Lyrael looked up at the stars, watching the human ships move with precision and determination. For the first time in days, she felt a sense of peace. The distress signal had been answered, and the Deathworlders had come. In the distance, the Vorax fleet regrouped, unaware of the storm that awaited them. Humanity was here, and they would fight. Not for glory, not for conquest, but for life itself. And the galaxy would soon learn why humans were called the Deathworlders, the survivors against all odds, the warriors of impossible worlds and the hope for those in despair. The battle for Elira had begun, and the story of courage, strategy, and interstellar heroism was only just unfolding. The morning sun rose over the shattered cities of Elira, casting a soft glow on the smoke-filled skies. From orbit, the human fleet hung like silver guardians above the planet, their engines humming steadily, their weapons primed. Captain Aaron stood on the bridge of his flagship, eyes scanning the Vorax positions on the tactical display. Every detail mattered. Every decision could save or cost lives. "Status report," he ordered. Lieutenant Mara, his second-in-command, turned from her console. "Vorax patrols are spread across the northern and southern sectors. They're scanning for our fleet, but so far they haven't noticed our main formation. Their numbers are greater than we expected, Captain." Aaron nodded. "We expected that. Prepare the scout ships. We need eyes on the surface and their fleet movements. I want every angle covered." The scout ships, small but highly maneuverable, shot away from the main fleet like silver arrows. They weaved between asteroid fields and debris from destroyed cities, gathering intelligence. From these vantage points, the humans could see the scope of the damage. Entire Illyrian cities had been reduced to rubble, the remaining civilians hiding in underground shelters. Below, on the surface, Lyrael moved with purpose. The Illyrian Council had begun organizing what little resistance they could. Civilians were guided into safety tunnels, emergency medical units were deployed, and the few functional defense drones were sent to strategic points. Every moment counted. "Are the humans here yet?" asked Kael the Elder, his voice strained with worry. "They are above us," Lyrael replied, her gaze fixed on the sky. "And they are preparing to strike. We must hold out a little longer." Back in orbit, the scouts returned with reports of Vorax activity. "Captain," one pilot said, "there is a Vorax dreadnought approaching from the asteroid belt. It is heavily armed and its speed is impressive. They are moving toward Elira's equator." Aaron's expression hardened. "A dreadnought means business. Prepare the fleet. We will use the terrain to our advantage. Bring the Vorax into the asteroid fields. That's where we have the upper hand." The humans moved with precision. Ships twisted and turned through the belt, using massive asteroids as shields and natural barriers. The Vorax, sleek and fast, followed without caution. They were confident in their technology, believing speed and firepower could overcome strategy. They were about to learn otherwise. Suddenly, the silence of space erupted with the soundless roar of combat. Lasers and plasma cannons lit up the darkness as the Deathworlders executed their plan. Ships darted between asteroids, firing from angles the Vorax could not anticipate. Explosions ripped through the enemy fleet as the human ships exploited every weakness. From the surface, Illyrians watched in awe. Their hope, fragile as it had been, began to grow. These humans were not like other species. They did not simply engage in battle. They adapted, they calculated, they survived. On the bridge of his flagship, Captain Aaron directed the fleet with calm authority. "Left flank, intercept the Vorax frigates. Protect the civilians below. Mara, take the center. We will divide and conquer. Remember, Illyria must survive." Lieutenant Mara nodded, her hands moving across the controls with practiced precision. "Understood, Captain. Engaging now." The human ships moved like shadows, appearing and disappearing between asteroids, striking Vorax ships and vanishing before retaliation. Each attack was precise. Each maneuver was calculated. The Vorax, despite their superior technology, found themselves struggling to respond. Meanwhile, on the surface, Lyriel coordinated with the human ground teams. Communications were difficult, but the Deathworlder's technology allowed for near-instant transmission. She watched as humans guided her drones into positions that maximized their defensive potential, protecting civilians while disrupting enemy supply lines. A sudden alarm echoed through the Illyrian command center. "Vorax dreadnought detected. Approaching the capital." Lyriel's heart skipped a beat. The dreadnought was massive, its weapons capable of leveling entire city blocks in seconds. Yet she saw no fear on the faces of the humans who had descended to the surface to coordinate evacuation and defense. They moved calmly, quickly, with a confidence that inspired her and her people. On the ground, human engineers set up portable energy shields around key areas. Rescue teams guided Illyrian families to hidden tunnels. Pilots prepared for ground assaults while snipers took positions on high ledges, their targeting systems ready to disable Vorax units with precision. In orbit, the human fleet executed a daring maneuver. Using the asteroid belt as cover, they created a funnel channeling the Vorax dreadnought directly into a trap. Mines hidden in the asteroid debris were activated at just the right moment. The massive Vorax ship surged forward, confident in its path, and then, explosion after explosion rocked the dreadnought. The Vorax fleet faltered, taken off guard by the humans' ingenuity. Ships that had seemed invincible were now damaged or destroyed. The survivors began to retreat, unsure of how to respond to tactics they had never faced before. Lyriel exhaled deeply, a mixture of relief and disbelief. "They are incredible," she whispered to Kale. "These humans, they fight like the fiercest storms, yet with intelligence and purpose." Kale placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Perhaps this is the ally we have been waiting for. Perhaps now we can survive." Captain Aaron watched the battlefield carefully, knowing the battle was far from over. The Vorax were dangerous, adaptive, and relentless, but he also knew that humans had a unique quality that no technology could replace: the ability to endure, to adapt, and to fight with creativity and courage. "Prepare for the next wave," he ordered. "They will regroup. They always do. But so will we. Elira will not fall while we are here." As the day progressed, the Vorax launched repeated attacks. Each time the humans countered with new strategies, drawing enemies into asteroid traps, using sudden gravitational shifts from nearby planets to alter ship trajectories, and even manipulating storms in the upper atmosphere to disrupt enemy sensors. Every tactic was designed to protect Elira and its people while minimizing casualties. From the safety of underground shelters, Illyrian children watched the battle unfold on small screens, their eyes wide with awe. They whispered stories to each other about the humans who had come from the stars to protect them. imagining themselves as part of this great struggle for survival. Even as night fell, the battle continued. Lasers lit the darkened skies like shooting stars, and explosions echoed across the atmosphere. Yet for the first time there was hope. Illyrians dared to believe they could survive, that their world might be saved. Lyrael moved among the surviving citizens, offering words of encouragement. The humans are here. They fight not for power or conquest, but for life itself. We are not alone. Below her, human ground teams worked tirelessly. Engineers repaired damaged infrastructure. Medics tended to the wounded, and soldiers remained alert, ready for any threat. Captain Aaron and his officers coordinated attacks from orbit, ensuring that every movement, every decision, was part of a larger plan to secure the planet. Hours later, the Vorax finally withdrew for a temporary retreat, regrouping beyond the outer asteroid belt. Their arrogance had been challenged, their power questioned. For the first time, the Illyrians saw the humans not just as visitors or strangers, but as protectors, a force capable of standing against an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. Lyrael allowed herself a moment to breathe. The skies above Illyra, still scarred from battle, held the human ships in quiet orbit, a promise of continued protection. She knew the fight was far from over, but hope had been rekindled. Captain Aaron, standing on his bridge, gazed down at the planet. "We've made the first step," he said quietly. "The Vorax underestimated us. That is our advantage. We will protect Illyra no matter the cost." And so as Illyra entered its first night of uneasy peace, the bond between humans and Illyrians began to form. It was a bond forged in courage, intelligence, and the shared will to survive against impossible odds. The Deathworlders had entered Vorax territory, and the war was only beginning, but for the Illyrians, the arrival of humanity meant a future that was once impossible, now seemed attainable. In the distance, the Vorax fleet gathered, unaware of the determination and ingenuity they faced. The Deathworlders would not back down. They would fight, adapt, and survive, and the galaxy would witness a story of courage unlike any it had seen before. The first day of the human intervention had ended, but the battle for Illyra was far from over. The Deathworlders had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Vorax fleet had retreated for the night, but the tension on Illyra was far from over. The planet's skies were filled with the lingering smoke of battle, and the air on the surface carried the scent of scorched forests and shattered cities. Still, hope had returned to the Illyrians. For the first time in days, they believed they might survive. Captain Aaron stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display. "They are regrouping," he said. "The Vorax will strike again. We need to be ready." Lieutenant Mara adjusted the controls, bringing up scans of the Vorax formation. "They've repaired some of their ships, Captain. They're reorganizing their attack patterns. I estimate they'll attempt a double-pronged assault, one fleet from orbit and a ground strike from their drop pods." Aaron nodded. "Then we will meet them on both fronts. Prepare all ships for coordinated defense, and alert the ground teams. Illyrians will assist where they can." Below in the Illyrian command bunker, Lyrael and Kale prepared their people for the next wave. With the humans' guidance, they had fortified key areas of the city and established safe zones for civilians. The Illyrians had also begun to participate directly in the defense. Using their knowledge of the planet's terrain, they set traps for Vorax ground troops, guided humans through hidden passages, and even piloted drones alongside their human allies. "We are stronger than we believed," Lyrael told Kale, a spark of determination in her voice. "If we follow their lead, we can hold our world." Kyle nodded. "They fight with courage, yes, but more than that, they adapt. We can learn from them. We can survive." The next morning, the Vorax launched their assault. Drop pods pierced Illyra's atmosphere, scattering troops across the plains and near the ruined cities. Orbital ships fired down laser beams, targeting human and Illyrian positions alike. Yet the Deathworlders were ready. Captain Aaron had anticipated this exact scenario. Human ships split into rapid attack formations, weaving through the debris and using planetary weather patterns to their advantage. One squadron created artificial electromagnetic storms, disrupting Vorax sensors and guidance systems. Another lured enemy fighters into asteroid traps where precision weapons struck from multiple angles. On the surface, Illyrian defenders coordinated with human ground teams. Civilians were evacuated through tunnels and hidden paths, while Illyrian drones and human soldiers intercepted Vorax squads. The Illyrians' intimate knowledge of the terrain gave the humans a significant advantage. Lyriel moved among the defense posts, her heart pounding with both fear and excitement. She had never imagined herself in battle, yet here she was directing drones, guiding civilians, and assisting human soldiers. Every life saved reinforced her determination to survive, and to see Illyra stand again. The battle escalated further when a massive Vorax dreadnought descended toward the planet's equator. Its weapons could obliterate entire city blocks in seconds. Illyrian defenses were no match, and even some human ships struggled against its firepower. "Focus on the engines and shields," Aaron ordered. "We don't need to destroy it completely. Just disable it long enough to push them back." Human pilots darted in and out of fire, targeting critical points on the dreadnought. Explosions rocked its hull, causing temporary malfunctions in its weapon systems. Vorax soldiers on the ground scrambled as their support from orbit faltered. Lyriel and her team seized the opportunity. They activated hidden traps along the main access routes, cutting off Vorax troops from key positions. Human engineers set up portable energy shields to protect civilians, while sharpshooters disabled enemy units from elevated positions. The combination of Illyrian knowledge and human strategy created a turning point in the battle. The Vorax, once confident and relentless, now faced an enemy they could not anticipate. Their rigid tactics could not match the creativity and adaptability of the Deathworlders. Captain Aaron observed the chaos from orbit. "They are strong," he said quietly. "But strength without strategy is nothing. We will use every advantage we have." He directed several squadrons to create a feint, drawing the Vorax forces toward the northern plains. Meanwhile, hidden strike teams moved into position near the Vorax supply depots. When the time was right, explosives and targeted attacks disabled the enemy supply lines, cutting off reinforcements and weakening their morale. On the surface, the Illyrians began to fight with renewed courage. Inspired by the humans' fearlessness, they took on roles they had never imagined. They guided troops, repaired drones, and even improvised new defensive tactics. The humans taught them how to use their environment as a weapon, how to funnel enemies into traps, use natural barriers, and coordinate attacks across wide areas. "Look at them," Kyle whispered to Lyriel. "They are not just saving us, they are teaching us to fight for ourselves." Lyriel nodded. "And that is more important than anything. They give us hope and courage. That is what will save Illyra." The Vorax tried to regroup and launch a final orbital strike, but the humans anticipated it. Using a combination of gravitational anomalies, asteroid shields, and precision strikes, the Deathworlders neutralized the attack. The Vorax dreadnought, already damaged, was forced to retreat into space for repairs. Their morale was shaken, their confidence broken. For the first time, the Illyrians realized that the Vorax were not invincible. Humanity had shown them that courage, ingenuity, and determination could turn the tide, even against a technologically superior enemy. As night fell, Illyra's surface was scarred, but victory had shifted. The Vorax retreated beyond the planet's orbit, regrouping to plan another attack, while the human fleet hovered protectively above. Lyriel walked through the streets of the capital, now quiet except for the distant rumble of collapsing buildings. She saw families emerging from shelters, children holding hands with parents, their eyes wide with wonder at the humans who had come from the stars to protect them. "They are incredible," she whispered. "They are not like anyone we have ever known. They fight not for power but to save lives, and they do not give up. Ever." Captain Aaron, observing from his flagship, knew the battle was far from over. The Vorax would return and their attacks would become more desperate and dangerous. But he also knew that Illyra's defenders, human and Illyrian alike, had learned a vital lesson. Survival depended not just on strength, but on strategy, courage, and unity. "Prepare the fleet for tomorrow," he said. "We will continue to fight and we will protect this world. Illyra will not fall while we are here." Lyriel gathered the Illyrian Council that evening. "The humans have shown us what we are capable of," she said. "We have survived the first wave. Together we will stand against any threat." Kyle smiled, a rare expression in these dark days. "They are not only warriors," he said. "They are teachers, and through them, we learn to be stronger than we ever imagined." As the night sky darkened, the stars above Illyra glimmered with distant light, and the human ships remained vigilant. The first turning point had been reached. The Vorax, confident and arrogant, had underestimated the Deathworlders, and the Illyrians, once desperate and hopeless, now stood with new courage. In the quiet moments between battles, Lyriel looked up at the stars and whispered a prayer, not just for survival but for the future. The humans had arrived, and they had shown that even the smallest species, when guided by courage and intelligence, could resist the mightiest foes. Captain Aaron, too, reflected on the day's events. The Illyrians were fragile, but they had potential. With guidance, protection, and the example of human resilience, they could become allies in the galaxy. A species capable of defending themselves and contributing to the larger struggle for survival. Tomorrow, the Vorax would return. But the Illyrians would no longer be helpless. With humanity by their side, they had learned the first lessons of courage, strategy, and hope. And the galaxy would soon witness a story of heroism, resilience, and the unstoppable force that humans represented, the Deathworlders. The battle for Elyra was far from over, but the tide had begun to turn. Humanity's arrival had not just saved lives, it had inspired an entire species, and in that inspiration lay the greatest weapon of all, the will to survive. The dawn over Elyra was tinged with smoke and the glow of distant fires, but this time the atmosphere carried hope rather than despair. The Vorax had retreated after their failed assault, but Captain Aaron knew it was only a temporary pause. They would return, and likely stronger, their frustration fueling fiercer attacks. Yet the humans had not come alone. The Illyrians, once frightened and desperate, had begun to actively join the defense. Under the guidance of the Deathworlder fleet, they were learning to think like warriors. Their slender forms, once symbols of fragility, moved with purpose. Their natural agility and understanding of the terrain became an asset in ways the Vorax could not anticipate. Lyriel, Captain Aaron said over the comms to the Illyrian strategist, "Today we don't just defend, we go on the offensive. We strike where the Vorax are weakest. Can you coordinate the surface teams?" "Yes, Captain," Lyriel replied, her voice firm. "We have mapped their positions and supply routes. My teams are ready." In the skies above the planet, human ships and Illyrian drones took position. Scouts flew high, mapping the Vorax fleet beyond the asteroid belt. Engineers on the ground set up communication relays to ensure seamless coordination. It was an alliance born in desperation, but its potential was immense. Captain Aaron addressed his crew over the intercom. "Listen carefully. Today we fight not just as humans, but with Illyrians at our side. Their knowledge of this world combined with our tactics gives us an advantage. We hit fast, hit hard, and leave no opening for them to recover. Elyra will not fall while we are here." The Vorax, meanwhile, had regrouped in the outer sectors of the system. Their commanders, furious at the setback, did not expect the humans to advance with such boldness. They underestimated the Deathworlders' ingenuity and their willingness to adapt. As the Vorax fleet moved toward the planet, human ships executed a calculated diversion. Smaller squadrons feigned retreats, drawing enemy fighters into narrow corridors between asteroid clusters. At the same time, the main fleet launched sudden strikes from hidden positions, disabling Vorax ships before they could mount a proper defense. On the planet's surface, Illyrian teams worked closely with human ground units. They guided drones through hidden tunnels, ambushed small Vorax squads, and secured key structures. Lyriel watched as Illyrians, once hesitant to act, now fought with courage and precision. Every small victory lifted morale, proving that with proper guidance and determination, even the seemingly weakest could become formidable. "Look at them," Kale whispered to Lyriel, eyes fixed on the displays. "They are not afraid anymore. They are learning to fight. We may have allies, yes, but our people are becoming warriors too." Lyriel nodded. "This is the beginning. Today we reclaim what we can, and we show the Vorax that Elyra is not defenseless." Captain Aaron, observing the battle from orbit, directed another squadron to target Vorax supply lines. They struck with precision, cutting communications and destroying resource depots. The Vorax were caught off guard. Humans and Illyrians were striking from multiple angles simultaneously, a tactic they had never faced before. In the northern plains, Illyrian and human ground teams executed a coordinated ambush. The humans drew Vorax soldiers into open terrain, while Illyrian scouts, using their intimate knowledge of the landscape, guided hidden mines and traps to immobilize them. Explosions rocked the area, and the remaining Vorax troops retreated in confusion. The synergy between species was remarkable. Humans taught strategy and tactics. Illyrians provided insight into terrain and enemy weaknesses. Together they formed a force far greater than the sum of its parts. Captain Aaron smiled slightly. This is what I hoped for. Not just allies, but partners in the fight. Today, we take the battle to them. A sudden alert flashed across the tactical display. A Vorax dreadnought was preparing to enter the planet's orbit. More massive than the last, armed with devastating weapons capable of leveling entire city sectors in seconds. Ready the heavy weapons, Aaron ordered, and prepare the ground teams for immediate support. We will not let them strike at the capital. Human ships raced into position, weaving through asteroids and using atmospheric interference to shield their approach. From hidden orbital stations, laser cannons targeted the dreadnought's engines, aiming to disable its mobility rather than destroy it outright. On the surface, Illyrians deployed traps and shields in coordination with human engineers. Energy barriers protected civilians while channeling enemy forces into kill zones. Ground teams, both human and Illyrian, moved with precision, striking enemy squads before they could organize. The battle raged across sky and land. Explosions lit the dawn, and laser fire carved paths through the clouds. Yet, amid the chaos, Illyrians and humans communicated seamlessly, each action complementing the other. The Vorax, despite superior numbers and technology, struggled to adapt. Their rigid tactics could not contend with creativity, adaptability, and unity. In the capital, Lyriel moved through command posts, coordinating Illyrian defenses with human guidance. Every successful maneuver strengthened her people's resolve. "We can do this," she whispered repeatedly. "We can fight and survive." Hours passed and the tide slowly turned. The Vorax dreadnought, damaged by precision strikes and hindered by human ingenuity, began a retreat. Smaller Vorax ships followed, demoralized and confused. Illyrians cheered cautiously, though the battle was not fully over. Captain Aaron observed the retreat. "They've underestimated us," he said quietly. "But they'll return, and when they do, we will be ready." In the aftermath of the day's fighting, the Illyrians began to rebuild key infrastructure, guided by human engineers and strategists. Medical teams treated the wounded, while rescue units cleared rubble and restored communication lines. Though scars of battle remained, hope had been restored. Lyriel stood atop a rebuilt observation tower watching the stars. "They fight for life itself," she said softly to Kale. "They don't seek conquest. They teach courage and strategy. Through them, we learn to be strong. We will survive," Kale nodded. "And through them, we understand that survival is not just about strength but unity, intelligence, and determination." Illyra is no longer defenseless. That night, human ships continued to patrol orbit, ready for any counterattack. Illyrians stood by their side, prepared to fight if necessary. The alliance had become more than cooperation. It was a shared commitment to protect life and ensure that the galaxy's smallest worlds could endure even the harshest threats. Captain Aaron reflected on the day's victories. The Vorax, despite their might, had faltered because they underestimated the combination of courage, adaptability, and intelligence that the Deathworlders embodied. Humans had not only defended Illyra, they had inspired an entire species to rise and fight for itself. "This is what it means to be a Deathworlder," he murmured. "To survive, adapt, and inspire hope in others. Illyra is safe for now, but the real test is yet to come." Lyriel, looking over her people, understood this truth more clearly than ever. The humans were teachers as much as protectors. They had shown that even the weakest, when guided by strategy and courage, could stand against the strongest foes. As Illyra settled into an uneasy peace, the bond between humans and Illyrians deepened. Trust and mutual respect formed, not just out of necessity but through shared struggle and triumph. For the first time in weeks, Illyrians allowed themselves to believe that their world could survive and perhaps even thrive, despite the shadows of the Vorax that still loomed in space. Captain Aaron knew the next days would bring new challenges. The Vorax would adapt, their attacks would become more desperate, and the stakes would rise. Yet he had confidence in his crew, in the Illyrians, and in the alliance they had forged. Together they were stronger than any enemy. "Tomorrow," he said, addressing his officers, "we press the advantage. We show them that Elira is not just defended, it is prepared. And we remind them why humans are called the Deathworlders. We endure, we survive, and we protect life. Lyriel, standing beside Kale, looked at the stars once more. The humans have given us more than protection, she said softly. They have given us courage. They have shown us how to survive. And with them we will endure any challenge. The first major offensive had succeeded, but the war for Elira was far from over. Still, the turning point had arrived. Humans and Illyrians now fought as one, united by courage, intelligence, and the unshakable will to survive. The galaxy would remember this day, not for the Vorax power, but for the bravery of those who stood against it. And above all, the Deathworlders had proven once again that no challenge was too great, no enemy too strong, for those who refused to give up, adapted to the impossible, and fought for life itself. The Glisa system trembled with anticipation as the Vorax prepared for their final assault. Their ships, though battered and demoralized, had returned with reinforcements. This time they would spare nothing. Elira's surface was tense, its cities still scarred by previous attacks and its defenders weary but determined. Captain Aaron stood on the bridge of his flagship, eyes fixed on the display. "This is it," he said quietly. "They've regrouped for one last strike. We've prepared for them and we will not fail. Elira survives today no matter the cost." Lieutenant Mara nodded. "All units report ready, Captain. Ground teams are in position, and Illyrian forces are coordinating with us. We have the advantage in planning, if not in numbers." Below, Lyriel walked among her people, reinforcing morale and coordinating defenses. "We fight not just for ourselves," she told them. "We fight alongside our new allies. We fight for Elira, for our families, for our future." Kyle added, "The humans have taught us that courage and strategy can turn the tide, even against the strongest foes. Today we show the Vorax that Elira will not fall." The humans and Illyrians had spent the previous hours finalizing a complex plan. Orbital ships would split the Vorax fleet, luring smaller squadrons into traps while heavy weapons targeted the enemy dreadnoughts. On the surface, Illyrians would lead civilians to safe zones, set up defensive positions, and strike from hidden vantage points. Human engineers would coordinate attacks from orbit and guide ground teams with precision. The Vorax approached. Massive black ships blotted out parts of Elira's sky, their engines glowing ominously. Drop pods filled with enemy troops pierced the atmosphere, landing near the cities and plains. The final battle was beginning. Captain Aaron's voice echoed through the fleet. "Attack in 3, 2, 1, now." From orbit, human ships executed perfect maneuvers, weaving through asteroids and using atmospheric anomalies to shield their approach. Vorax ships fired blindly, their precision reduced by the Deathworlders' tactics. Explosions ripped through the enemy fleet as humans struck with speed and accuracy. Exploiting every weakness on the surface, Illyrian drones guided civilians into hidden tunnels, while Illyrian warriors and human ground teams intercepted Vorax squads. Hidden traps immobilized enemy units, and sharpshooters disabled critical equipment. For the first time, the Vorax were being outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and overwhelmed. Lyriel moved through the command center, coordinating attacks and watching as her people fought with courage. She saw Illyrians once fearful now moving with confidence, guiding troops, setting ambushes, and even improvising new tactics. The humans had taught them, but now they were acting independently, contributing to the victory. The Vorax dreadnought, the centerpiece of the enemy fleet, surged toward the capital. Its weapons could level entire districts in seconds. Captain Aaron assessed the situation. "We cannot allow it to reach the city. Mara, deploy the intercept teams and guide the ground strike squads. We hit it where it is most vulnerable: engines and shield nodes." Human pilots darted between laser fire, striking the dreadnought's engines while orbital cannons fired in perfect coordination. The Vorax, confident in their might, were caught by surprise. Critical systems began to fail, and the massive ship lost altitude, making it vulnerable to ground strikes. Illyrian teams, guided by humans, set up traps around the capital. Energy barriers forced Vorax troops into kill zones where human and Illyrian forces were ready. Explosions and precise firepower disabled the remaining enemy soldiers and support units. The dreadnought, now crippled, emitted sparks and smoke as it attempted to retreat. The Vorax fleet faltered. Without their dreadnought leading the assault, smaller ships began to retreat. Their attacks became disorganized and desperate. Captain Aaron seized the opportunity. Push forward. Don't let them regroup. Human squadron struck with renewed energy, coordinated with Illyrian teams on the ground. Vorax ships were disabled or forced to flee, while remaining ground troops were neutralized. The capital and key cities were safe. Illyra had survived the final assault. As silence fell over the battlefield, Illyrians emerged from shelters. The streets were filled with survivors, citizens cheering, hugging loved ones, and expressing gratitude to their human allies. For the first time in weeks, there was relief, hope, and the promise of a future. Lyriel stood atop the observation tower, looking at the sky, now clear of enemy ships. "We survived," she said softly. "We truly survived." Kale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Not just survived. We have learned to fight, to adapt, and to protect ourselves. Humanity showed us what courage means, and together we have won." Captain Aaron addressed the Illyrians via comms. "Illyrians, today you fought with courage and ingenuity. Humanity's fleet will continue to protect you while you rebuild. But know this. You have proven that you are capable of defending your world. Illyra will stand." On the ground, human and Illyrian engineers began restoring key infrastructure. Hospitals and shelters were repaired. Communications networks were re-established. Children returned to schools and families began rebuilding homes. Humanity had not only fought for Illyra, they were helping it recover, guiding the Illyrians toward independence and resilience. In the command tower, Lyriel gathered her council. "The humans came when we needed them most," she said. "They fought beside us, taught us, and inspired us. Illyra will never forget this, and we will continue to grow stronger." Kyle added, "This alliance is more than survival. It is hope, and hope is the greatest weapon against any enemy." Captain Aaron observed the work from orbit. He knew their mission on Illyra was coming to an end. The Vorax had been repelled, the planet was secure, and the Illyrians had grown stronger. Yet he also knew the galaxy was vast and countless worlds might one day need the aid of humanity. The Deathworlders. "Prepare to leave orbit," he ordered. "Illyra is safe for now, but the story of their survival and ours will continue to spread. Humanity shows the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and the will to survive are the greatest powers of all." Before departing, Lyriel approached the humans. "Thank you," she said simply, "for saving our people, for showing us how to fight, and for giving us hope." Captain Aaron smiled. "The fight is never just ours. Today you learned what it means to survive, to adapt, and to endure. The galaxy will remember Illyra, not for the attacks it faced, but for the courage its people showed, and the allies it found in humanity." The human fleet activated its jump drives, slowly leaving the planet's orbit. Illyra's skies, once filled with the fire of war, now glimmered peacefully under twin suns. The survivors looked up, knowing that humanity's example had transformed them from a frightened species into warriors capable of defending their own world. As the stars stretched into the distance, Captain Aaron reflected. Humanity's reputation as Deathworlders, resilient, intelligent, and unstoppable, was well earned. They had saved a civilization on the brink of destruction, taught courage and strategy, and proven once again that no challenge was too great for those who refused to surrender. Lyriel and Kyle walked among the Illyrian people, their eyes filled with pride and hope. The cities were scarred, but Illyra had endured. Its citizens had learned the value of courage, strategy, and unity. And the humans had shown them that even the smallest, most fragile species could survive when guided by determination and intelligence. Illyra's reconstruction began immediately. Humans provided technical guidance, but the Illyrians themselves led the rebuilding. Schools reopened, hospitals became operational, and communication networks restored. The alliance between humans and Illyrians was no longer temporary. It was the beginning of a lasting friendship, a bond forged in the fires of battle. In the nights that followed, Illyrians gazed at the stars with newfound admiration for the humans who had saved them. Children told stories of the Deathworlders, how they had come from the stars to protect, teach, and inspire. Adults remembered the courage of the human fleet and the example they had set. Captain Aaron, aboard his flagship, prepared reports for Earth. Illyra was secure, its people resilient, and the Vorax temporarily defeated. But more importantly, the humans had left behind something far greater than victory. Hope, courage, and the knowledge that even the most desperate worlds could endure when aided by those who refused to give up. Lyriel spoke to her council. Elira is free, but more than that, we are strong. We have allies. We have learned to fight. And we will never forget what was done for us. Humanity has shown us the way. Kale smiled, looking at the stars. They came as saviors, but they leave as teachers. Our world is stronger, our people braver, and our future brighter. As the human fleet disappeared into the vastness of space, Elira entered a new dawn. The planet was scarred but alive. Its people were determined, inspired, and ready to face whatever challenges might come. Humanity had proven once again why it was called the Deathworlders. Unyielding, inventive, and brave beyond measure. And somewhere, in the endless reaches of the galaxy, civilizations watched and learned that help could come from the stars. Help could come from the strongest survivors of the harshest worlds. Humanity had answered a call for aid, and in doing so had not only saved a planet, they had inspired it. A new chapter had begun.